Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a very special GreenRope webinar today, Customer Experience Part 2, How to Build Your First Journey Map. So today, we're going to be talking with Charlie Colquhoun. He's the founder and CEO of Simply CX. And my name is Alessandra Gyben. I'm the marketing director here at GreenRope, and we have a very, very special webinar planned for you here today. And so without further ado, Charlie, why don't you go ahead and tell us what's on the agenda?
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. Thanks for the invitation. We're going to be going through why customer experience is important, 5 elements for that success, the customer journey itself, what is a customer journey, and how to build your first journey map. And we'll look at how that correlates with Journey Flow, which is a great product from GreenRope that you can use to design your journeys. And we'll align that all together for you so you can use the tools in this webinar to conduct your own journey map session and then be able to adjust the GreenRope CRM as you need to and use the Journey Flow tool.
Thank you. We're really excited. Yeah, so just a little bit about me. If you're not a GreenRope user, or I have not spoken to you yet, if you are a GreenRope user, again, my name's Alessandra Gyben. I am the marketing manager here at GreenRope, and I oversee the day-to-day efforts of our marketing team. I specialize a lot in our content marketing, social media, lead nurturing, and overall marketing automation process. I do spend a lot of time with our team developing our customer journeys. And, you know, if you ever want to reach out and ask me to review any customer journeys or want more information, I'm always available to help as well. I have been with GreenRope for over 7 years, and I'm currently living in the Reno Tahoe area. And we are currently going through a blizzard right now. For those of you that are, not in California or Northern California, yeah, we're in an absolute blizzard. So pardon if my internet connection is a little shoddy today. You never know what you're going to get in this Sierras. But now to pass it on to Charlie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and let's get started with customer journey mapping.
Thank you, Alessandra. I've been journey mapping for over 20 years. My original experience came out of doing formal usability and research and design with customers coming in to test them about how they use their product, how they use the products, how they succeed with using products and services. And that actually grew out to looking at self-service and redesigning large-scale global customer support sites, and as well as other shopping cart experiences. But one of the things I realized is when you fix some of the things that are working or not working, rather, in the way that a customer is using your product or service, you start to realize it's not just about how customers are using our products or services, it's how we are as companies providing a brand experience that we can live up to. And it's not just using the product, but how are we to do business with? So in 2016, I started Simply CX, and our mission is to use journey mapping to drive transformation across your organization so that your customers and employees fall in love with you. Employees also have an experience within your company. That'll probably be another webinar that we'll do another time. So why is CX so important? Well, obviously, we're all familiar with the fact that there's a digital revolution in play. We're accelerating the way that we deliver value because of these devices. They've raised our customers' expectations. We're also seeing an explosion of data to try and understand how customers are succeeding or not. And we're racing to reinvent ourselves to keep up. This requires us to think about designing experiences that delight customers by how quickly they achieve their goals. In other words, we really need to focus on the speed to value. I can download an app in less than 60 seconds, but I can also delete an app in 60 seconds. And subscription now is not so much about owning a product, it's paying by the month or by the year. And if I don't have a great experience, I'm not going to renew and continue doing business with you. So Steve Jobs, of course, who comes up a lot in these discussions, said you've got to start with a customer experience and work your way back toward the technology, not the other way around. And David Armano, a user experience leader from a few years ago, said that we live in a world where the little things really do matter. Each encounter, no matter how brief, is a micro interaction, which makes a deposit or a withdrawal from our rational and emotional subconscious. The sum of these interactions and encounters adds up to how we feel about a particular product, brand, or service. So the little things, the feelings, they influence our everyday behaviors more than we realize. I really believe that you've got to get into the details nowadays. You've really got to understand how customers feel. And so these details are very, very important as far as understanding the complete experience that customers have. And so 73% of companies are investing in design to differentiate their brands. And brands that are design driven are most likely to have exceeded their business goals by a significant margin. This came from a 2018 Digital Trends report brought out by Adobe and eConsultancy. So the way that I boil this down is into 5 elements for success. We really want to understand our customers. We want to understand our brand promises. What is our intent of the brand experience that we want to give to those customers? The customer journey is where it all comes together in the middle so that we can create a picture of that experience. And then there's the culture engagement around, how our employees are able to fulfill the delivery of that great experience and the measurements and results of success, and obviously connecting that to the return on investment. We're going to focus on the first half of this for today's webinar. So let's talk about customer understanding. Some of you will already be very familiar with personas, perhaps have developed personas. Typically, these come from target market segmentation. Some of you may not have personas, so if you don't, there is a way to do this. You can actually use this canvas on the right from Strategizer. And what we do here is we look at what are the customer jobs that a customer has to do when they're coming to interact with us. So in this example for Clark, let's say he wants to meet his friends at Starbucks. He wants to get a special coffee drink. He would like to get food for breakfast and then get back to work. What are some of the problems that he had the last time? Well, they went to a different place. It took too long to get the coffee. There was a lack of choice. There wasn't any healthy food options, and it wasn't comfortable. Now, what will Starbucks provide in the way of a gain for those pains that Clark had? They provide a great choice of coffees and styles. They have the food I want. They're quick and simple. I can order with an app and pay with the app, and it's a comfortable environment that my friends like. And so when you do journey mapping, you can build these out to build a real nice detailed profile of your customer, their aspirations, and what the pains are that they're having and how your service or product will help them. What are the opportunities to be successful, in other words, and give them gains in what they're trying to do. Brand experience. So the brand promise from Starbucks in this scenario, I just picked them because they're quite popular, is to inspire and nurture the human spirit. One person, one cup, and one neighborhood at a time. So underneath that mission statement, there is a set of brand principles or pillars or values. Some call them core values. But I really recommend that if you don't have this for your company, because I know that some of you out there are startups on this call, this is something that really has to be developed. This is your North Star. So creating a culture of warmth and belonging where everyone is welcome was one of the brand value statements for Starbucks. And unfortunately, they did get into the press, as we know, with some issues about not being as warm and belonging as they felt they would be when a manager pointed out some customers that seemed suspicious to him, and in fact, they were perfectly innocent. So the North Star of your brand is really where the customer intent about, the brand intent of what your brand is and why we exist in the marketplace really has to resonate with the customers. So we have to create experiences that imprint memories representing our brand to the customer and the customer's intent. And those moments of interaction are along the journey. And the problem is that our actions sometimes betray our intentions at that moment of interaction. So let's talk about the customer journey. Customer journey map is a visual illustration of the customer's outside-in experiences with a business or experience with a business. And we use these journey maps to align the organization's activities around their customers' goals, interactions, and perceptions. What we do is when we do journey mapping with groups of people, and that's something we're going to go through today, we literally use Post-it notes to map out what our customers are thinking, what they're doing, the people they're interacting with, and the things. So this can cover any experience. It could be getting in a car to go shopping. It can be in a medical situation, which journey mapping has been very effective in creating some great health experiences for children, as an example, or it can be used for a digital subscription experience. So let's talk about how to build your first journey map. You really recommend conducting a workshop. Journey mapping by yourself will be a little bit like journey mapping in a vacuum. You may do it with another person if that's the best, if the best you can do at the time, because you really have to do this in a guerrilla fashion in a startup. But really, the most powerful way to do this is to invite a cross-functional team, especially those that are closest to the customer, such as your sales and customer support staff who are on the phone every day with those customers. You can include customers, but I recommend mapping first internally so you understand where you think the bumps are, and then talking to customers separately without leading them to ask them about their experience so that you can validate those pain points before you go off and spend a lot of money fixing something that isn't broken. In order to prepare for your workshop, build a deep understanding of your customers. Collect as much information as you can get your hands on. Get data about their phone calls to support, any survey data. I recommend if you can do call shadowing, even with sales and support, just listening to some of the calls that are coming in and talking to those folks about the current state of the customer's experience. That's very beneficial. And then if you do have any other data from marketing or target marketing, that's great to have. At the end of the day, if you just go and visit some customers, you don't have to visit 100 customers, you could visit 5 to 10. You can ask them a set of questions. For example, how did you become aware of our company? What were you trying to achieve? Ask them about the journey phases, which you'll see more of in a minute, you can refer to, such as how did they discover, purchase? What was the onboarding experience like? And then at the end of that, ask them what the one thing is that they would like to tell you as a company. This gives you a real blank canvas to get fresh feedback from your customers without trying to sell them anything. And that feedback can be brought back into this journey mapping workshop environment where it can be shared among the employees that you're mapping with and different staff from different folks. So again, create a persona profile. This is an example of a scenario where Beth is married with 2 kids. She's looking to go and sort out her expense management because she's been doing it manually. She travels a lot for sales. We write these personas in the customer's voice, so I'm filing my expenses. It's way too complicated and it's taking too long. What are my jobs? Well, I have to travel a lot. I have to get home. I want to get home on time. So some of these jobs can be aspirational, such as spending more time with family. And I want to complete my expenses and get reimbursed. What are some of the pains associated to this? Well, there's too many steps for me to manually do it. It takes so long. I'm home, but I have to finish my expenses. And I'm also late in getting these in, so my actual payment to get the reimbursement is taking forever. And so what would this new fantastic expense product do for me? Well, hopefully it would let me make things less repetitive. It'd be faster for me to invoice, and I'd be able to do thorough receipt tracking and spend less time, of course, so I could spend more time with my family. So in your workshops, you can actually do this in the workshop if you like. You don't have to do it beforehand. And you can put as many Post-it notes on here as you like. And different people that you're bringing in, especially those from customer support and sales, would actually help you build the picture of that customer profile. And obviously, you want a profile that wants to be typical of the majority of your customers and how they're experiencing their journey with you as a company. So this is a fictitious example. So let's say Snappy Expense is the name of the product, and we have a mission statement. We've got to make sure that the brand promise and the intent, this is the other piece you really need to have collected for your journey, is there as a North Star with which to measure yourself against as you map the journey. So mission statement, obviously I don't need to read to you, but let's talk about the principles. It's easy to use. It should be smart and efficient. It should give me peace of mind because I want my data to be safe, and it should be enjoyable. If at any point we see red dots, as you'll see later in this journey mapping exercise, which are the pain points, you will want to measure those back to, did we impact any of these brand value statements? And this helps really take the internal opinions out of the conversation, and now you're measuring yourself against something that is more about the company, the brand, and more objective in when you're looking to prioritize these pain points. So here's an example of a customer life cycle, which is really the steps and the chapters through which customers go when they are really interacting with any business. This is intended to be general, but as I become aware of something, I may witness someone else driving a car I like. I may be influenced. I may be inspired. I realize I have a need, and I'll assess the urgency to proceed to go into discovering what other options are out there. So I may search, explore, discover other competitors that we have as a company, or as the company that's providing selling the cars may have other ways of buying it. It could be Tesla, it could be a car app that helps me shop for cars. So as you can see, you go through these various stages. I'm not going to read all of them out right now, but I would say at the end of this, and you'll have this for reference, is at the end of the day, I'm going to measure that complete experience, and I'm going to either share positively that this was a great experience and advocate, or I'll share negatively and tell how many people I'll tell you more people why I was upset with the experience than not. Then we want to break this out. Typically it's broken out into, say, a buyer's journey, just to keep it simple, because obviously from a sales and marketing perspective and lead flow, you're really looking at, well, what's the acquisition of customers like? What's the buyer's journey versus the existing customer? The existing customer could be a customer that's been with you for 6 months or a year. The new buyer's journey is really about what's that first experience like as I become aware and I maybe read your content, go to your website, and decide to purchase from you. So we're going to focus on the buyer's journey for today. So let's complete the other step for our workshop, which is to pick the journey scenario. We really need to bookend each end of the journey so that we don't get confused when we get our other colleagues together to map this. We want to make sure we have a clear persona, clear brand intent, and we want to know the beginning and the end of the journey is. So in this scenario, Beth is looking for a better way to file her expenses. It's going to start with her researching various expense solutions, and then it's going to stop when she decides to purchase a subscription. And as you can see on the right here, we have some of the journey chapters she's going to go through. She's going to become aware, discover, explore, compare other options out there, and then make a final consideration before she puts in her credit card. In preparation, you'll want to buy the supplies that you need. At the end of this presentation that's going to be shared with you after the webinar, there is a checklist for the supplies that you would need. You want to pick a good room, a good room with plenty of wall space to map out on the wall. And you want to make sure you have a good projector so that you can do a nice kickoff and share that valuable information that you've already collected about your customers and the personas. And you want to do a kickoff introduction possibly prior to the workshop, just to explain the objectives and goals. And then the night before or the morning before you set up your journey mapping workshop, put up a blank journey mapping sheet, the persona printed out on the wall, along with those scenario bookends, and of course the brand promises. And don't forget to bring a camera that's charged to take pictures of the map. The team, celebrating the actual event and what's being collected is important. And you may want to shoot video of the readback in the customer's voice, because the journey map is really a story map of that customer's outside-in experience with you as a company. On the day of the workshop, on your agenda, have some introductions and break the ice with everybody, saying, what's some of your best brand experiences? It could be or worst. So typically someone will have a brand affiliation, they'll say why. Well, it was a great experience because Zappos said I could return 2 pairs of the shoes that I didn't like, and I got other ones and I could keep trying them on, et cetera, et cetera. Some of these company names come up with good customer experiences, for example. And then introduce the best practices, but most importantly, get a review and get agreement on the journey scenario, the persona that you're going to map against, and the start and the stop. And this will stop any problems with mapping where people might change and say, well, wouldn't they do this? Wouldn't they do that? You really want to lock those down so there's some guardrails for the actual mapping. So now let's get into the meat of this. The mapping steps are, as I said, the brand promises, the persona, printed out up on the wall in the scenario. And then you take your Post-it notes and you start to map what the customer is thinking and doing. So for Beth, it'd be, I want to find a solution that helps me do my expenses more easily. So we could put in, she starts the research by doing, say, a search online on her web browser on the phone. She may switch later to a different device, but you can actually place those artifacts along the top of the screen. So make sure that you do have artifacts for printing out everything from an email to a web page that she's looking through, the search results. And then you start to map out at the same time the people she's interacting with. So she may get an email from somebody in sales or make a phone call to somebody in support. And then you actually are able to read the whole journey out to your team and have them vote with Post-it notes. So give them 5 Post-it notes each, 5 colored dots each, either red or green, both red and green, excuse me, and then have them go through and put in the green dots first for all the moments of delight. So those are the good things that happened in the journey. The red dots are for the pain points and the friction points that you find in that journey. And then the idea here is that you've mapped out the front stage of that experience, which is everything the customer is experiencing. What happens when there is a problem? When you drill down to the backstage, you may start to see that, well, the person that was trying to help them had 2 different systems they were trying to go to resolve their issue. They couldn't get a refund and they would have to wait 48 hours for supervisors to approve it. So the backstage concept here is really the people, processes, and systems that are aligned to support that front stage experience. And also what's important is as you map out the customer's experience this way, you have an opportunity to collect metrics, new metrics if you don't have them, potentially to say, oh, well, we know that 70% of people don't go to this page, or they do go to this page and they're very successful. So some of these metrics that you're collecting here in the industry are known as journey analytics. Some of you may call them customer success metrics. This is a great way to get a much richer picture of when customers are being successful, what a successful customer actually looks like getting through this journey with you, and you're able to then make changes to the journey and improve this experience for your customers so that they recommend you. So here we have the different artifacts, which can be a price list. It could be a recording of a phone call. I've actually mapped with companies before. We've taken a long phone call interview and then we mapped it against the wall. It could be anything from a purchase order, etc. Okay, so those different artifacts. With the front stage and backstage, as I mentioned. So what we do is when we read back the journey, we would read back, I am Beth. I'm looking to purchase or subscribe to a solution that will help me do my taxes more efficiently. I went to the website, and you can read through all these steps. Typically, we focus on the green ones, which are doing, and the yellow ones are thinking. So I clicked on the website. I thought, oh, this is not very much information. I'll try this other place, et cetera, et cetera. And you build a very rich picture of what that experience is. And then we, as I said before, we take the 5 green dots that you can pass out. Depending on the number of people you have, you could give more or less. If you have a large group of people, sometimes I give out less. And then you give them the red dots to put and mark up the pain points. And what typically happens is they cluster. And they cluster along the journey so that then you can see where the good moments are that should be protected and the pain points are that you really want to itemize. You can boil the ocean, so there could be lots of things that you could see that need to be fixed, but what I do is recommend that you focus on the top 5 pain points. That way you get the larger issues to come up. Sometimes they're a theme of an issue. And in this example, I have 5 here that are just some of the examples that we run across in journey mapping in general. For each of these pain points you identify looking at the red dot clusters on the journey map, we take a Post-it sheet and write up one for each individual pain point. The output of those sheets, which are discussed with the team as we look and agree upon the pain points, can be taken and put into a template like this. So this is a finding and insight from the output of a journey mapping. So in this example, I got too many emails and phone calls. When I read back Beth's experience, this was very obvious to us. We've got a lot of red dots around that. It's really annoying to get so many. And we had some examples printed out on the wall that we discussed. So in the observation, we tend to write when we want to write in the customer's voice, right? Outside in. I got inundated with email, phone calls, and a truckload of post office mail the first week I expressed interest. So she wanted to get preliminary sales information, but she was overwhelmed. And so if we jump to the root cause, you can do a 5 whys exercise. So the root cause exercise is really asking why 5 times. So why did Beth get too many emails and phone calls? Well, there isn't currently a way to set communications preferences in the system. Why is that? There are other service priorities were queued up for 2018 roadmap. Why was that? We didn't have a clear understanding that this was an issue. Why was that? Because no one brought this issue up as a business requirement. And why was that? Because no one is tasked with or currently focused on the customer journey and collecting more detailed feedback other than from our limited surveys. So that's an example of what you can come up with when you do this very deep journey mapping exercise to give you much deeper and richer insights. And that is a great way to look at the complete experience. And I know many of you on this call will be interested in the buyer's journey in the sense of using GreenRope, which is a great CRM and has a great tool called Journey Flow. So one of the things we could do is look at that issue and come back into the Journey Flow tool with GreenRope here and look at the lead nurturing that was taking place. And here's an example of that lead nurture. So Beth found an ebook. She decided to sign up and download the book. The lead was created, and then we now created a better experience where there's going to be a delay here based on whether she opens the email or not. So now these flows can be set up that we can agree to would be an improvement to that experience so that she's not over inundated and she's going to get a nurturing drip with the right campaign that has the right cadence for her to consume that content, learn what's available, eventually, build a relationship really is what she's doing, a brand relationship with your company, and move her through to purchasing and her making that decision to actually purchase and subscribe with you. So I don't know if we've lost Alessandra because I know she was having some connections issues.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can. You're good. I'm still going. I've got a couple more slides, but I just wanted to check you were still online. We were just looking at the nurture flow there on the journey flow example. And then I would lastly say in all of this, building a visual journey map is a great way to share these insights and findings with your broader team. There is research out there to show that collaboration across your teams will make you more successful, because you are sharing an outside-in view of that experience, and everyone has a part to play, from sales setting the sales expectation, or marketing rather, the sales team giving the right information and communicating in the right cadence, to all the way through to support when someone has an issue with the product or service that they're using. And collecting all that information in a journey context really helps you prioritize those things that you need to improve that experience and be successful as a business. I'm going to wrap it up at that. Alessandra, if you can hear me.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I know that customer journey mapping is something that we get asked a lot from our users, and I know that, you know, just people in business in general are really interested in the customer journey mapping process, because it is so complex. It can be so complex, and it really you know, encompasses and spans across all departments. And I know that you know, we can get started with some Q&A, and I've got a couple questions as well to get us started. And so for everyone who's got a question, if you could please go ahead and put your questions in the Q&A box, and we'll get to those as they come in. To get started, Charlie, I wanted to ask you, you know, we often talk about, okay, this giant customer journey, from awareness to consideration to conversion to onboarding, etc. What is your best advice for creating or diving into more micro journeys? Do you have a process that goes through, you know, do you have suggestions for, do you look at the overall journey to begin with, and then move forward onto creating these sort of micro journeys, or these micro moments that will really help people get more granular in their customer journeys? What do you suggest in terms of building out the different parts of the customer journey? Because obviously, to really make them personalized and tailored, you need to kind of send people on different paths.
Yes, great question. Great question. So you can zoom in and you can zoom out on these journeys. I was very fortunate to be doing this at a global level, horizontally, not only across our corporation at one point in my career, but to be able to do this across countries. And if you zoom it all back into, let's say, you're a smaller company and you're working in one particular part of the company, it doesn't mean you can't go ahead and start mapping out that journey to one specific scenario. You know, because I was on a very horizontal team that was related to customer experience function, we were looking at the whole journey and looking for problems, and then going back to those different teams to help them, to help identify what they should prioritize to fix, and then help them track it through to completion, and go back and validate with customers that things were fixed. The micro interactions, you know, you can go all the way into just the experience of the awareness flow, say, and I've got what I'm showing right now on screen is the whole journey, but you can drill all the way down, and you could actually take sign up as its own mini journey. I mean, there are user experience flows that designers will use to design the interfaces, so you can go all the way to that level. But I think what you're saying is can you do a very detailed interaction map or journey map rather for some of the issues, say, around how they click on nurturing the email. And in fact, in your journey flows tool, that's really the micro interactions as well. The nice thing about doing it with a team with the Post-it notes first is you really do get that qualitative emotional feeling that you want to understand about your customers and what they're experiencing. And then you want to understand is that micro interaction really designed for that type of user? You know, if there's there could be an age difference in the user. There could be someone who's in their 60s versus in their 20s, you're going to get different attitudes and aspirations about that journey from those different types of people that you want to map against. So in short, to answer your question, you can zoom in, you can zoom out. It shouldn't stop you from mapping. Mapping is very beneficial, as you can see, to get that outside-in experience. But that mapping could be following the instructions of a document that's telling you how to do your first outbound marketing campaign, for example. So it doesn't have to be, and you could even zoom in further on that. Does that answer your question?
It does, and I think Journey Flow is a really great tool to do that, and I agree. I love the idea of having the Post-it note, getting all the team in there so you can really collect all the information you want from the different departments that will then help you define who that customer is, how they interact with each of those departments, and how to align those departments so that the customer experience is one seamless flow, but then also generating those little micro journeys, for someone that comes from a ski book, for example, or your PPC, they'll probably go through different journeys, as you've been explaining.
Yes, and
we do have a.
Oh, you've got that. You have that. You can see that, Alessandra, right? Go ahead. Sorry. You have a question from.
Yeah, so we've got a question from Ross here. You have some great insights about the journey/experience from your customer's point of view. Suggestions around ways of collecting both positive and negative pain points, information from prospective clients, leads, and existing customers. Good question. I'm interested in this as well.
That for me, that really comes back to those conversations in person, if you can do that. I've actually taken this model and put it into a spreadsheet as well. So the awareness, the discover, the explore, broken down those chapters, and got on a phone with some prospective buyer customers too. So we were able to collect some information in one scenario where customers maybe have abandoned, some did purchase, or some didn't, and be able to talk to some of those customers to get their feedback on why they didn't complete the purchase. So it's really about positioning this as not selling them anything, that the company wants to do better. We're doing research. I'm independently looking at this. There's no bad, there's no good, there's no blaming, there's no bad answers, there's no issues if you tell me honestly what you were feeling and thinking. And then, have the conversation in the context of that customer's journey. So how did you become aware of the product? What did you think about that? Was that where you expected to find information about it? Or were you pleasantly surprised that they became aware of it in an ad on TV or radio or social, et cetera, et cetera? And then ask them about how they feel and what their attitudes are and what they thought was appropriate. What were their impressions of a particular chapter of that journey? I hope that makes sense. Really, one of the things we forget to do in our companies these days is get out and just talk to customers. Really just spend some time saying, hey, we're not here to sell anything. We just want to talk to you. Could you give us some feedback? If it's half an hour, you could probably get half an hour with somebody. If you feel like you need to give them an incentive, say, well, we'll donate $25 or whatever it is. Sorry, not 25, maybe a bit more money than that. We'll donate $100 to a charity of your choice if you have some time to spend with us to give us this information. I hope that makes sense. The surveys give you that aggregate data, but talking to customers, building that persona up, and then understanding how they like to go through that experience is where you really get the insights.
Yeah, that's great. And Ross, let us know if that answered your question. And please keep the questions coming in. I do see one here from Chandresh. Hi, Chandresh. The Journey Flow tool of GreenRope is really good for the back end of the team interaction and brainstorm. Is that an accurate assessment? Yeah, so I can take this, Charlie. The Journey Flow tool is an incredible tool to get started with developing your customer journeys, both your full customer journey, as Charlie's explained, and those micro journeys that he was just talking about. For our own marketing and our own customer journeys, we actually use Journey Flow a lot in the very beginning stages. It allows us to collaborate with team members, share our journeys, get notes from other team members before we actually set them up in GreenRope and make them live. So I would definitely suggest going in there during the planning and the brainstorming stage after you've gone through the exercise that Charlie explained here, as I think that tool is really beneficial just for playing around and really familiarizing yourself with how you can, with the different things that you can do with the customer journey, and defining those points, those interaction points, and getting feedback from the rest of the team as well. And then Lydia asked, using the GreenRope survey tool could probably be a great replacement for the spreadsheet. And for those of you who don't know, GreenRope too well, or new users, we do have a survey tool in GreenRope. And yeah, the survey tool would be great for, obviously getting feedback and finding out more information from your team as well as your users as well. And then Greg actually asked Lydia, you a question with how would you suggest that the GreenRope survey be used? I'm going to let Lydia, if you'd like to chime in on the chat with that, but we've got another question here for Charlie. So Greg asked, Charlie, can you define persona again and give us 2 to 3 examples?
Yes, the persona, I could probably jump back to that picture, but the persona is really a symbolic aggregate idea of how the customer or the attributes of a customer. So the attributes are, sorry, I was just trying to get that back up here. So the attributes can be their motivations as well as demographic information. Could be their motivations, their goals, and their frustrations. So in this example of Clark Andrews here on the left of the slide, I hope you can all see that. Some of his attitudes are he's friendly, clever, go-getter, he's 32, he's a software developer, single, lives in San Jose, character, computer nerd. A quote, I feel like there's a smarter way for me to transition into a healthier lifestyle. So in this particular example, it was really an exercise around brands such as Nike. His preferred channels are social media, mobile, and you can see as you build this out, if you were to switch this to a 65-year-old customer or a 40-year-old customer, you could see that some of these things can change. Never mind that there's just different types of people. Some people might be more detail-oriented than others. So these personas are really important because they really should be based on your target customer base. And then also, when you find out who actually becomes your customers, you want to check that those customers are having a great experience. And it may be that the original target segments were not correct. And actually, you find out there's another segment of customers that you really want to target. But getting away from the marketing side of this really helps us put ourselves in the customer's shoes, helps us really feel that we are that person and really get a great picture of how that person would experience our brand. We got more questions coming in.
We do, and then Greg asked a question about if the personas fall into separate categories, and I responded to him in the chat, and I said each persona for every business is going to be different, and most businesses have multiple customer personas, and they are very specific to your business and the data that you collect from engagement between your brand and the consumer.
Yeah, and I would add. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Alessandra.
No, please continue and add on to that.
Well, just very quickly, I saw in the chat that Greg asked about vals to topology. I'm not familiar exactly with that, but you mentioned values, attitudes, and lifestyles. So yes, and any information you have that builds an outside-in understanding that where you feel that it can help you understand that persona, absolutely is valuable. Those categories that you just mentioned, which are Greg mentioned in the chat, survivors up to aspirational types. Yes, those are categories you could use. Many, when I was at other different companies, when we were building out detailed personas this way, we would create some of our own names for them and types. So it's not necessarily by any set of types that's out there. It's just the more you learn about them, you can give them nicknames. Oh, can I just add very lastly that I think bringing real customers in who represent that persona and having them as a real live persona that you can bring in the future to walk through, asking them questions about their current state experience, you can also bring them in to co-design future state experiences with you, and they become your real life persona. I've actually done that before, where I've taken pictures and I've built out the profiles, and we actually have a real person you can shake hands with. So it doesn't have to be all just on a symbolic page of what we think it is. You could actually have the real people come in.
Very cool. And then we've got a question here from Lisa. Any suggestions that you have used for companies that are not located in the same place, i.e. team members all over the country?
That's a really tough one. There are many journey mapping tools out there. They are great. I've trained I've trained teams on a couple of them. I really recommend getting people together with the Post-it notes. There's a magic in the room that occurs when people share the knowledge about that customer's experience across the different silos or teams, depending on the size of your company. It's just something special that occurs. And actually, I've conducted journey mapping where people have just not met each other that are supporting the same journey for a customer across all of those chapters I told you about. And then you've got people saying, oh, I haven't met you before. Don't you want your team to know each other? You know, it's like an orchestra. You really want that orchestra to be able to deliver a great experience. And there are hidden gems and insights that you get from people saying, well, I thought we should do it this way, but we never got it fixed. I told the other team to do that, but it wasn't really their priority. And now we can all see it together. We can share in brainstorming on how to fix it. It's better than nothing. It's better than nothing if you can get online and get a common picture built up. You could try to do this perhaps with a spreadsheet if you want to do this in a guerrilla fashion, or look into those different software types. I'm a big fan of the style I presented to you. There's different styles of journey maps, but I really like the detail of the thinking, doing, people and things. Just builds a very detailed picture.
And Lisa, I can chime in on that as well, because at GreenRope, we are a virtual company. We do have our core team members, and the majority of our team members located in San Diego, and they do meet regularly. But for example, I'm up in the Reno Tahoe area, as I said earlier, and so being in marketing, I really have to make use of a lot of tools that help me connect with our marketing team as well as the other members on our team. It's the one thing that we do pretty regularly is we'll set up Zoom meetings like this where we do, webcam meetings, and we just, Lars, our CEO, will sit in front of a whiteboard. And so, we might not all be in the room, which I obviously I think is much better. But we're so lucky to have the technologies that we have today, like Skype, like Zoom, GoToMeeting, etc., where we can turn on our webcams and almost sit there with the rest of the team and be a part of what's going on in the room, even if we aren't physically there. So that's one thing that I would suggest if you do have a team that is spread out and you really can't all get together, is to make use of these technologies, video conferencing, and have a whiteboard session with the team and have everyone participate. And we've even done it where we've separated into little micro groups to do some workshops, and we will mix people who are both physically there as well as virtually, just so that we do have teams working together, even though I'm in Tahoe, maybe someone else is in Florida. We've got some team members that are overseas. So it is really important that if you do to make use of those technologies and try and collaborate and get the teams, each department and the people who do work virtually together as much as possible using those tools.
I would take back what I said. If you have really good video conferencing equipment and the audio is good for those participants and you're able to put it on a board, I just have had journey mapping workshops in person where we've tried to have people call in, and the experience for them is just not the same. But if you're all on the same page and using lots of new video solutions out there now, that is definitely worth doing than not doing it at all. Absolutely.
All right, so we've got about a couple more minutes here. If anyone would like to ask some questions, Greg, thank you. Greg says, this presentation has been fantastic. Thank you so much. I agree with that. Charlie, you bring so much knowledge and expertise, and you really have a great way of breaking it down for all of us so that we really understand, because we know how complex it can be. And I think the ability to really break it down and understand it is what is going to make the customer journey developing process a lot more powerful and useful for everyone. Thank you for that.
I know that you're going to mention the deck. In the deck at the end, my email is available. We're at www.simplycx.com. Happy to answer any questions that you have, and we're here to help if you want to take this further.
And so just as a reminder to everyone as well who attended today, we will be sending out the slide deck as well as the recording of this webinar. So please be on the lookout for that. That will be sent out in the next couple of days here. And then, of course, you'll have all of our contact information if you would be interested in learning more about customer journey mapping. You'd like to contact Charlie. And something exciting in the works as well is at GreenRope, we're currently finishing up an ebook talking about customer journey mapping, and it's a little workbook that you can use for your own business to take notes and kind of help brainstorm on some of this as well. And I'm sure Charlie has some good resources too. So keep that in mind and be on the lookout for all of those exciting things as well. I want to thank everyone today for attending. I know that every time we have webinars like this, I get really excited about going in and looking at our current customer journeys and finding out how we can make them even better. And again, thank you, Charlie, so much for your wonderful insight and for walking us down this part 2 of developing your own customer journey. And Charlie, do you have any last words, any key takeaways for the audience?
Just get started. Try it out. Get going. It's really fun. I really enjoy doing this, and it's really fun to build a storyboard of your customer's experience and then look for those things that you can improve so that you can compete, differentiate, and here's another buzzword, elevate your customer experience so that you're successful out there in the marketplace with your brand. So thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you again, everyone, and have